Let me give you some free legal advice, Emil. The best legal advice you're ever going to get. Get a good criminal defense attorney.
The problem is, who's going to prosecute him? He's in charge. That's the problem. The criminals are in charge.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to George Conway Explains It All to Sarah Longwell. He's George Conway. I am not Sarah Longwell. I'm her best friend, JVL. She's out. I'm here for her. Lucky me. And George, another
My
week,
apologies.
And everything is going great in America. I feel like we don't even need to talk about anything because everything is so good. And
everybody's obeying the law and nobody's lying. It's all great. Yeah.
It's all just peachy. So let's start with the Supreme Court. Supreme Court issued a decision on the Department of Homeland Security's program, wishes, hopes, I don't even know what to call it because everything is by the seat of their pants, on deporting people to third countries, meaning to places that they have no relation to. And as one of our friends wrote, that the majority here did not just greenlight this policy, although, again, that is like giving it too much credit, without any explanation. But it did so in a case in which the government defied the district court twice.
Yeah.
And I just want to throw this open to you. What the fuck is going on here?
The honest answer, I have no idea what the fuck is going on here. It's really unclear what the Supreme Court did and why. The important thing, in order to understand the context of this case, is to make the distinction between the issue in this case and the issue in some of the other cases that we have been talking about over the past couple of months. In the other cases, the issue is what kind of process, what kind of due process is due when the government's throwing somebody out of the country, simpliciter. Okay? This is a circumstance where all of the individuals who are potential plaintiffs or actual plaintiffs in the case are subject to actual orders of removal. They've had due process with respect to whether or not they have the right to remain in the United States. However, the question is, where can the United States send them? And there is actually federal law in the Immigration and Naturalization Act. And I'm not an immigration lawyer. I just read about this stuff now because we all have to become immigration lawyers. Basically, what the law says, what Congress has said, is that when the government has the right to deport somebody, it has to primarily deport people to countries to which those individuals have a connection. So if you resided in a country or you are a citizen of a country, that's where they're supposed to send you first. You can contest that. Under the statute, under domestic and international law, you can say, wait a minute, if I go back to my home country, something bad will happen to me. It's not safe for me there. And so the question is, do these individuals who have been determined to be removable what kind of due process are they entitled to before the government says, we're going to send you to this, since we can't send you to countries A and B, we're going to send you to South Sudan or El Salvador without any additional process on whether you'd be safe in those countries. Or Libya, that was one option, where there's basically a war going on, or two separate governments, and neither government really, I think, likes having these people just dumped on them. And South Sudan, which is just a complete disaster area. It's what Donald Trump would call what kind of country. Basically they're just offloading these people wherever they can offload them to. And so the district court in this case issued a temporary restraining order, a class-wide, nationwide. He certified a class. He made it a nationwide injunction. Now, we talked earlier about the question of whether or not judges can do nationwide injunctions, and the Supreme Court's decision on that particular issue in the birthright citizenship case is probably going to come down at 10 o'clock tomorrow, but set that aside. What happened was the government and this relates actually to Emil Bove, who we may be talking about later.
Oh, we're going to get to that guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, he plays a big role in this case. Essentially, what the government did was, it was clear that the TRO applied to everybody in the putative class, everybody who fit the description in the complaint. Okay, more than just a handful of individuals, more than just the individuals who were listed in the box at the top of the complaint or the order. And so what the government did was, and this is where Emil Bove comes into play in the other topic we're going to be talking about. What they did was they pretended internally, essentially, that this order only applied to the individuals in the caption and not to the entire class. The immigration lawyers who are actually litigating the case said, well, no, that's not true. I mean, look at what the document says. So what happened was the government, because of the orders from the higher up in the Justice Department, according to a whistleblower letter that we'll be talking about, basically didn't tell DHS that, no, you can't do this. Okay? And left them, or basically just allowed a bunch of people, pursuant to earlier instructions, to be sent out of the country in violation of the court order. Okay? There's no question that the court order was violated. And so then and that was an order issued on April 18. Then, the district court obviously was like, okay, you violated my order. I should hold you in contempt. But what I'm going to be concerned about is what am I going to do about these people who got tossed out of the country without due process to places where they have no connection to? And he issued a specific remedial order relating to those people, where those people would not have to be brought back to the United States, but they would be entitled to, wherever they got sent, to contest from there the countries to which they were removed. And that's a second order. Now, the government appealed the first order, the preliminary injunction, the nationwide injunction order, to the First Circuit, and then sought a stay. It was denied the stay in the First Circuit, and then it went up to the Supreme Court to seek a further stay, which is the decision that we are now talking about. And what the court did was it issued like a 2 or 3 sentence order that said, the stay is granted. That's it. Didn't say why.
6-3.
And there are a lot. What?
Was this a 6-3? No.
Presumably, yes. 6-3. It could be. It could be 5-4 and somebody remained silent, but I doubt that. Okay. And there were the three liberals dissented, and they listed a whole bunch of reasons why the government wasn't entitled to the relief that it received from the Supreme Court. And some of them were pretty good. One of them was one that you just mentioned in the opening, which is the government violated this court order. And one of the things that's true in equity, which is the law of injunctions and granting relief to do justice when somebody has violated the law and it's not money damages at issue, is that somebody who comes into court with what are called unclean hands because they did something bad, not necessarily directly related to, but related in some fashion to the subject matter, they're not entitled to get the court to have the court help it. And here, I think the dissent had it right that, with the government actually violating this court order that it's now appealing, why should it be entitled to equitable relief from that order pending appeal? It's a very, very good argument. And then there were a whole bunch. There were other arguments that were made by the dissent. But the problem is, that's now coming up is no question that the nationwide injunction is stayed, so it can't be enforced against, for across the board with respect to all of these individuals. But the question then becomes, what happens to the 8 people, or I don't know how many there are, who actually were left the country and are the subject of this specific second order, which isn't class-wide, but is specifically only to those who were removed in violation of the order that has now been stayed. And what happened is that the district court said, okay, fine, I get it. My first order was stayed, but you guys didn't take up the second order. the specific one with the small group of people. And as far as I'm concerned, that order's still good. So, and then the Justice Department flipped out. And the Justice Department filed these papers, I guess yesterday or the day before. I mean, this is happening at lightning speed, saying the district court is just flouting the Supreme Court's your decision, Supreme Court. You should not only reverse this or stay this decision or the other order that they didn't take up originally, but you should remove the district judge from the case. A really, really inflammatory rhetoric. And the problem is, it's like, okay, there's an argument that the second order should fall with the first, but there's also an argument the other way. And the problem is that there's a twofold problem. One is we have no idea why the Supreme Court decided to stay the first order. We have none. So you can't really know whether or not the second order should logically be stayed or withdrawn or vacated unless you know what the Supreme Court did. But the Supreme Court didn't tell us. And so this is the chaos that is unfolding now in the Supreme Court. And presumably, I mean, the Supreme Court's busy because they're trying to finish up their term of like their regular cases. And that term ends tomorrow, at their session that starts at 10 o'clock. And meanwhile, we've got all this going on that's very, very unclear and very, very murky. I think the reason a lot of people are very upset about this is not just because, the government is getting relief when it has violated the court orders in this case, but it's kind of incongruous for the Supreme Court to have said very clearly in these prior deportation cases that people are entitled to adequate notice and the ability to contest removal, and then not say that they're entitled to contest where they're being removed to, when that is often just as important as the removal itself. Because these people may be being sent to, in fact, the government seems to be making a point of sending them to places where they will be unsafe. And that's a very disturbing development. But we don't know exactly why the court did what it did. It could have some technical thing to do with the nationwide injunction decision that's going to come down tomorrow. We don't know. I guess they're just going to have to explain it over the next few days. But meantime, it's very, very confusing and very, very unclear how bad this decision is and what its implications will be.
Okay, so first question, why wasn't there an explanation of the decision? There was no explanation of why there was no explanation to the decision. They don't have to explain their decisions when on these orders, on these interim stay orders. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And often there's no rhyme or reason to explain why they do it sometimes and why they don't. I mean, I can speculate that maybe they're pressed for time. Maybe they don't think it's as important as some other issues are, other cases are. Maybe they can't agree. Maybe they all have different reasons for doing it. And it's impossible for them to write even a short opinion saying, we are doing this basically because for the following reasons. So all they do is basically tell us the result. And, there's no rule that says they have to tell us why they decide these stay applications the way they do. Unfortunately, because these cases all are interrelated and because they have such weighty matters at stake and so many people are relying, and including district judges, to try to figure out where the Supreme Court is going with this so that they don't do things that are going to get reversed or stayed by the Supreme Court, they need to have some knowledge about what's going on. On the other hand, from the Supreme Court standpoint, they really might not have any more than a half-baked reason, or again, as I said, they may not agree on why they're doing what they're doing. It's just you have six people saying, well, I don't think I want to, let's put this one on hold. And they may have all sorts of different reasons. And that's the problem with this shadow docket. I mean, it exists because
this is the shadow docket. These are the cases that they take on an emergency basis and often don't explain their opinions. It's been written about by Steve Vladeck of Georgetown Law School at great length. And one of the problems is there's often lack of adequate briefing. There's often lack of adequate time to decide these cases. And a lot of it is seat of the pants. And then sometimes they make what are in effect important decisions without properly explaining why they did what they did. And, I can't completely fault them because this stuff can be very, very complicated, as even the dissent shows. And the problem is like you're getting these complicated cases in a rush where people on both sides are writing briefs overnight. And so, one of the things that happens in litigation over time, with litigations that last 6 months or a year, or most last years, is there's a certain amount of clarity that comes out as issues get refined and fall out, and as you learn more facts.
Sure, that makes sense.
It's sort of the equivalent of the fog of war. You right. learn as the smoke clears, you can see, okay, now I see what the problem is, or how we fix it, or why this is wrong. And this is chaos, basically.
So let me ask an immigration law question, which maybe you will be able to answer, maybe you won't. When someone is deported to a third country, what becomes of their status? So let's say you are a citizen of Venezuela. You came to America, you sought asylum, your asylum has now been denied or something, but the court has ruled that you can't be sent back to Venezuela, and so they send you to Libya instead. So you are dropped off in Libya, which is a failed state. What is your immigration status within Libya? Are you in Libya lawfully? Can you be arrested by the Libyans to the extent there are Libyans? What happens if you try to cross the border out of Libya? Like, how does any?
Is there even law? Who's in charge in Libya? Do we know?
Right, and so how? It does seem like people are being deported into like a Kafkaesque limbo from which there actually isn't a way out.
Right.
Okay, so that's
again, their legal status would be determined. I mean, I guess there may be international law overlays. I mean, for example, the international law basically says that you shouldn't be deporting people to places where bad things will happen to them. That's U.S. law too. But whatever, Libya law is what it is. It may not even exist. It may be just a bunch of people with guns. We don't know. I don't know. I don't know anything about Libya these days, other than I wouldn't want to go there.
Oh boy. All right, well, this is as good a time as any for a word from our first sponsor, BetterHelp. This is an ad by BetterHelp. Men today face immense pressure to perform, to provide, to keep it all together. So it's no wonder that 6 million men in the U.S. suffer from depression every year, and it's often undiagnosed. It's okay to struggle, though. Real strength comes from opening up about what you're carrying and doing something about it so you can be at your best for yourself and everyone else in your life. If you're a man and you're feeling the weight of the world, talk to someone. Anyone. A friend, loved one, a therapist. You guys, therapy is a huge help. Even if you're not going through some kind of major trauma, none of us are meant to get through life alone. Except for me, maybe. I really was built for being alone. No contact with any humans ever. I was kidding, of course. I don't go through life alone. With over 35,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. It's convenient, too. You can join a session with a therapist at the click of a button, helping you fit therapy into your busy life. Plus, you can switch therapists at any time. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/AskGeorge. That's BetterHelp.com/AskGeorge. Our next piece of lawlessness, we have a judge magistrate saying that Kilmer Abrego Garcia has to be released since he is back in America. Correct me if I'm wrong. The government's position is no.
The
Is that
government's
basically what it boils down to?
the government's position is astoundingly the judge. You shouldn't let this is the DOJ's position is don't let Mr. Abrego Garcia go because then our friends down the street at DHS will take custody of him, and that would be bad. Did you hear? Does that make any sense to you? Because it doesn't make any sense to anybody else, and it didn't make any sense to the magistrate judge, and it didn't make any sense to the district judge. Basically, the government is saying,
we can't trust those other guys.
We can't let them go because we,
those
the
guys
government,
are terrible.
you can't be made to let them go because we, the government, might have to take them back. It was mind-bogglingly bizarre. And I think that the district court, both the magistrate judge and the district judge, because what happened is it went first to a magistrate judge, and then you get to appeal to a district judge. Magistrate judge isn't an Article 3 judge with, they're appointed only for 10-year terms, and all of their work is subject to the review of actual district judges. But none of this makes any sense, okay? Because it had nothing to do with the normal reasons why somebody's release, a criminal defendant could be or should be released before trial. There's actually a presumption that somebody who is charged with a crime is free before trial. And that presumption can be overcome by the government, essentially, if you can show that the person is dangerous to society or poses a risk of flight such that they will disappear and you will not be able to try them. And essentially on the basis of those standards, they didn't make that showing with respect to Arrego Garcia. First of all, the charges with which he has been charged aren't particularly, they're crimes, but they're not hugely serious crimes in the grand scheme.
He's not being charged with being a pedophile, kidnapper, gang member from MS-13? Because I've been told that he's basically a terrorist.
No.
And so I assumed the government was going to present charges of terrorism or criminal conspiracy.
He's being charged with having driven some illegal aliens from one part of the country to another. Which is illegal.
Charged with driving?
Yes.
Okay.
Driving and conspiracy to drive. Okay. And both of those things are illegal, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not what, nobody's getting killed. It's not gang violence.
We were told terrorism.
It's not terrorism. Basically, in the grand scheme of things, these are crimes, but relatively speaking, they are chicken shit crimes. And so they're not normally the kind of crimes that you would say, oh my gosh, people are going to get hurt. And the public is unsafe if this guy goes free and continue, even if he continues to do what he's doing. It was like he's driving, that's exactly your point. And the other claim is, is he going to show up for trial? And they didn't really make an argument that he wouldn't. And the only reason why he wouldn't be showing up at trial is if ICE grabs him and ships him abroad again.
Right.
Which he doesn't want. We've kind of established he doesn't want to leave the country. So, and the other thing that they made some argument about, well, Mr. Arrego Garcia, he's gained some notoriety. It's like, okay, well, that makes it harder for him to leave. Because people are going to say, oh, look, here's Arrego Garcia.
I know that guy.
Why is he at Kennedy Airport? Okay. You couldn't make this up. The entire legal world was like, are you serious? Is that their argument? That the government shouldn't release Arrego Garcia because he might be held by the government again and deported? It's like, dudes, what happened to the unitary executive theory? I thought Donald Trump was in charge of everything.
There's a lot of independence, right? I mean, these agencies, they don't just answer to the maximum leader, George.
No, they all answer to Stephen Miller, I thought.
Yeah. So where does this go from here? Like what? I mean, I think the judge magistrates made a ruling.
Yeah, I think
the government's not complying with it. To somebody,
they can go. I mean, the government could, I guess, take it up to the Sixth Circuit, which is the United States Court of Appeals, to which the Tennessee district courts, to which judgments of the Tennessee district courts are appealed. I think they'll lose there. I think it's kind of, it's a sort of an embarrassingly stupid motion. I think what will happen is Arrego Garcia will be set free by the Bureau of Prisons because that's what the DOJ is required to do. And maybe ICE will take him back again. And who knows what will happen, what ICE will do and DHS will do. I don't know. I don't think they know.
So ICE could just be waiting outside the prison to just grab him as he walks out.
I guess they could be. Which is kind of stupid because it's like, why don't they just walk over to the detention facility and say, hey, we're from the government too. I don't know. None of this makes any sense at all. And I think ultimately, he wants to stay in this country because he wants this trial, because this is his, he's been shown not to be, he wasn't legally deported. And he's, there's not much evidence, if any. I mean, the district court kind of went through some of it. It's not real evidence that he is this MS-13 devil.
Mastermind.
And these charges are kind of, a lot of people have looked at the criminal complaint and they're kind of scratching their heads that these charges, they don't look all that powerful from an evidentiary standpoint. He wants his trial. We'll see what happens. Maybe he did it. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he'll get a short sentence. Maybe not. I don't know. But
when actions like this are bizarre. Appealed, do the supervisory courts, which in this case would be the Sixth Circuit and then ultimately the Supreme Court, do they look askance when the government has simply declined to comply? Or do they not care? Because again, I would think that the court would be pretty pissed at government simply ignoring other courts, because again, the courts are all on the same side, like they're all in the union together. They're the judiciary. But then as we started with the Supreme Court, the government twice defied orders from the court, and the Supreme Court majority didn't seem bothered by that.
Yeah, in this most recent decision. But again, we don't know exactly what moved them in that case. I mean, it's very clear in some of the prior decisions. Right? This is a black box. Maybe we'll get some light into the box in the next few days. Maybe we won't. But the court has shown some unhappiness with the government, both in some of these other cases, not the one that just came down, in some of these other, in the Arrego Garcia case, what was it called? The AARP case, with a funny name. They've kind of shown some skepticism and annoyance at the government. And there was a little of that from some of the justices in the birthright citizenship case, where they were kind of, I think was Justice Barrett. Even Justice Barrett was kind of wondering, well, what if you decide not to obey a Court of Appeals order? I mean, I think the government is losing credibility by doing some of the things that it's been doing. Why that didn't impact the DVD case is what it's called. It's a funny name, right? It's the United States or something versus DHS versus DVD. That's the Massachusetts case. What we let off the discussion with. Because when I think of DVD case, I think of, things you put in a Walkman. But anyway, a lot of this is not clear yet.
Good Lord.
So I can't explain it all.
This show is sponsored by Mudwater. If you rely on your morning cup of coffee to keep you sharp, but want to keep out the jitters, it's time to give Mudwater a try. Mudwater provides sustained energy without the spikes and crash of traditional coffee. Their OG blend is a mix of cacao, chai, turmeric, and adaptogenic mushrooms to help you feel focused without the crash. The best part, it's amazing over ice. Seriously, just mix it with cold water or milk, shake it up, pour it over ice, and boom! Boom! You got yourself a refreshing feel-good boost that actually helps you stay balanced. Every single ingredient in Mudwater products are 100% USDA certified organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, vegan, and kosher. There's also zero sugar and no sweeteners added. Each ingredient in Mudwater also serves a purpose. Their OG blend contains cacao and chai for a hint of caffeine and hot chocolate-like flavor, like lion's mane for focus. How cool is lion's mane? Their matcha starter kit is also a must try. It's the perfect way to step into clean energy with matcha's calming, focused boost. Namaste, George. Namaste.
Yeah.
Are you ready to make the switch to cleaner energy?
Yes.
Head to mudwater.com and grab your starter kit today. Right now, our listeners get an exclusive deal, up to 43% off your entire order, plus free shipping and a free rechargeable frother when you use code AskGeorge. That's right, up to 43% off with code AskGeorge at mudwtr.com. After your purchase, they'll ask you how you found them. Please show your support. Let them know that we sent you. Keep your energy natural and refreshing all year long with Mudwater, because life's too short for anything less than clean, delicious energy. George, we're going to save dessert for last, because I got dessert for us. But before we get there, got to talk about Harvard. So the government is in their ongoing war against Harvard. They're attempting to prevent Harvard from enrolling any foreign students. We had a judge block that attempt. Then we had Kristi Noem writing an op-ed for the New Look Washington Post. Great get for them. Really good for them to signal where they are on freedom and stuff. What is happening? You had a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts
You're
are...
a Harvard guy, aren't you?
Harvard, yeah. No, I mean, this is just all an attempt to make an example of Harvard and to basically punish it for being liberal. It's basically what they don't like, these universities, and Harvard is the number one target for them. And they make all sorts of accusations about Harvard that they're not backed up, and that could be made against any number of academic institutions. And because Harvard decided to fight back and to not cave, not capitulate the way some of these law firms have done, the government has doubled down. And it's done so, by trying to revoke grants, and that hasn't quite worked because the district judge is saying, well, you can't do that. That's a violation of the First Amendment because you're doing it because of the things that you say you don't like about Harvard teaching and doing and how it runs itself. And this is just another step in that, by taking away, there's a substantial foreign student population that has never been heretofore considered a bad thing. It's one of the things that we do here better than a lot of other countries. It's a comparative advantage that we have better, we have crappier, K through 12 than the rest of the world, but our institutions of higher learning are places that people want to come to around the world. And that's good for us. That's good for us because, these people pay tuition. And oftentimes the best and the brightest stay in the United States, and they do stuff for us, and they contribute to the economy. They create jobs. Or they go back to their home countries and they create better relations for us. And it's just, this is just an attempt they want to throttle Harvard as an institution. They want to throttle, they're anti-higher learning, and they're anti-foreigners. And this is the intersection of that. And and they've been using anti-Semitism as sort of the alleged cudgel to do their bidding.
They care deeply about anti-Semitism.
Yeah, exactly. So, so there's nothing really different here, I think, than some of the other stuff we've been talking about with respect to Harvard, because it's all for the same reason. It's all for the impermissible reason of trying to punish Harvard for its views and its what it teaches and its rights of association. It's just, there's the whole bit about foreign students is just another weapon to try to put pressure on Harvard to cave and then make other people cave. And all the other universities in the country should be thankful that Harvard didn't cave, because it allows them to stand up behind Harvard. It's just the same way that some of the law firms finally, that stood up against the Trump administration's attempts to punish them for things that, to wreak vengeance on them because Donald Trump felt that some of these law firms did things he didn't like to him. They stood up and stood up for the rest of the profession and for the rule of law. And the Trump administration essentially gone away on that. So it's really, really important, I think, that Harvard, Harvard is facing this all by itself. It's got a lot at stake because it is the preeminent institution of higher learning in the country. And it's kind of facing it alone. But if Harvard doesn't do it, then everybody else has got a problem.
So my assumption in this all along is that the only way Harvard could lose is if they surrendered.
Yes.
So long as they are willing to pay the price of fighting, and nobody else is capable of paying this price the way Harvard is, because they're just so rich, then they're going to win eventually. Yes. Is that right, or is that too Pollyanna? Yeah? You think they're going to, as long as they're willing to just go to the mattresses and throw down, they're going to win this eventually?
I think eventually, but it's not without cost. I mean, it's expensive, and they are, but they're trying to make up for it in other ways. They've been asking alumni for money, and they've been getting a very positive response, including from people who, not everybody who goes to Harvard goes and becomes like an investment banker or a billionaire or stuff, or drops out like who the founder of Microsoft. Bill Gates. Yeah, he dropped out as like a sophomore or something. Not everybody does that. A lot of people go into teaching. They go into public service, and they don't. But they're sending what they can. And I sent some money, and I think, we can't make up for everything that's been, these grants, and a lot of these grants aren't because so that Harvard can make money off the grants. These grants actually do stuff. Like, at the Harvard School of Public Health research. Or the Harvard Medical School, finding stuff that helps people, finding out stuff that helps people. And it's one of the reasons why people come to the United States. It's one of the reasons why people look to, scientific advancement. They have, at least until now, looked to the United States. It's why we lead the world in a lot of stuff. And, it's not just Harvard that's at stake here. And it's just important for everyone to realize that.
And then you have your Bill Ackmans of the world, where the call's coming from inside the house, and they are Harvard alums who hate Harvard. Do you understand that guy?
No.
By the way?
No, not at all. I mean, I don't think he's the most rational or stable person in the world. It's just my impression. But,
He is rich, though.
He is rich.
Boy, he's rich.
Yep.
This show is sponsored by Laundry Sauce. Laundry is one of those nagging chores in life that none of us really enjoy, so it's time to make it exciting. Laundry Sauce's pods don't just clean your clothes. They turn your laundry routine into a sensory escape. They're packed with a powerful bioenzyme that fights stains, and the scent, it is seriously, my friends, next level. Laundry Sauce isn't just about smelling incredible. It's engineered for performance, and because summer is all about fresh starts, they revive fabrics, making your favorite pieces look and feel brand new. If you've got a taste for adventure, or just want your clothes to smell like you do, their new Mojave Peach is the scent for you. Picture this. It opens with bright mandarin, spiced cinnamon, spark of the star anise. It's like spicy desert air rolling through a canyon at golden hour. Then you hit the heart of the scent. Juicy, sun-ripened Mojave peach paired with soft geranium. It's creamy, floral, and totally irresistible. This is part I got to tell you. I think that the real deep dive on the perfumology of het is beyond me. All I know is the stuff is incredibly easy, and it smells really good, and it works really well. It
comes in pretty packages, and I like the Italian bergamot.
Yes, I like that one too.
And the Siberian pine.
Yes. So when we got these things, and I was like, oh, look at this. And like the unboxing of it is even really cool. My wife was like, oh, you and your ridiculous things. And I was like, no, they're great. Really
it's pretty impressive that they got men interested in laundry.
Big fan of laundry.
I think that your wife should kind of think about that and what the implications of that are.
That's right. Yeah. And maybe the best part about laundry sauce, they offer a full money-back guarantee. If you don't get better smelling, cleaner laundry, you get a full refund. No questions asked. But you're not going to need it because this stuff is magic. It's really good.
It is magic. It is.
For limited time only, our listeners get 20% off your entire order when you use code AskGeorge at laundrysauce.com. That's 20% off your order at laundrysauce.com with promo code AskGeorge. After your purchase, they'll ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. It's time to make Laundry Day the best day of your week. 4 kids, every day is Laundry Day in our family. George, yours are younger. Yours don't get dirty like 5 different times a day. But I would say we do a
fair bit of laundry, yes.
We do a fair bit of laundry in this house. All right. Yes. And for everybody who stuck with us, now you get dessert. We're going to talk about Mr. Emil. I don't know how you pronounce his last
Bove.
name. Is it Bove?
Bove.
Mr. Emil Bove.
Emil Bove.
Who has been nominated to, what was his nomination, George?
He is now the Deputy Attorney General of the United States, and he has been nominated to become a United States Circuit Judge on the United States Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit, which is a very, very prominent federal appellate court that is seated in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and hears appeals from the federal district courts in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, and the Virgin Islands. It is a very, it's as good a judgeship as you can get, other than being appointed to the Supreme Court, I think. And ordinarily, I would think that a Deputy Attorney General would make a fine United States Circuit Judge. I do not think so here.
Well, we got this week a whistleblower complaint by Mr. Erez Ruveni, who you will remember not by his name, but by his role in this. He was in the Abrego Garcia case. He was the government's trial lawyer. And he is the guy who came into Judge Paula Zinnis's courtroom and said on April 4, based on the evidentiary record, Mr. Arrego Garcia was deported mistakenly. This shouldn't have happened. Later that evening, so this is April 4, his superiors at the Department of Justice told him to file a brief with the court misrepresenting the truth which he had told the court. He said, I'm not going to do that. He was put on administrative leave the next day. He was fired a week later. And in the course of this whistleblower complaint, 2 things I want to bring out to you.
Yes.
First is, prior to the April hearing, a senior counselor to the Secretary of Homeland Security and Trump appointee James Percival conceded that Mr. Arrego Garcia's removal was an administrative error, but said not that we should say that publicly. Which is an amazing thing. Like, hey guys, make sure you do the tap your nose thing when you do this.
Yeah.
But the best is that there is a meeting in which Mr. Bove is meeting with 20 people from his department at Justice. And this is when they were talking about planes being taken off in advance of the court saying, no, these planes can't take off.
The Judge Boasberg case, yes.
And Bove made a remark concerning the possibility that a court would enjoin those removals before they could be effectuated. Bove stated that DOJ would need to consider telling the courts, quote, fuck you, unquote, and ignore any such order. Mr. Raveni perceived that others in the room looked stunned and that he observed awkward, nervous glances among people in the room. Silence overtook the room. Mr. Raveni and others were quickly ushered out of the room. George, we're going to talk about all of this, but we're going to have to do it on the other side. The rest of the show, the remainder of the show is only for our Bulwark Plus members. Guys, come and join us. We put almost nothing behind paywalls. We give away like 98% of everything we do for free. We have no ads on any of the printed product. It's the best deal you're going to get. So come join us. Be on the other side.